Chapter 14. Now, Annie should have been relaxed. This was, after all, the most relaxing part of her day, mani-pedis with the bride. And even though her feet were in the tub, bubbles at full tilt, and the massage chair she was sitting in was doing its best to work out the tension in her neck, Annie was not relaxed in the slightest, mainly because her attention was still back in the parking lot with Mac. She'd felt like a complete idiot when she realized her appointment was right there at the inn, and she'd had to get back out of his car and storm into the spa with Mac calling after her. He'd texted several times asking if she needed a ride home, which she'd diligently ignored. But here she was now, doing her best to be in the present moment, when all she could really think about was the devastated look on Mac's face when they talked, and the way he felt pressed against her, and, most concerningly, how badly she wanted him there. She shook her head. She was supposed to be celebrating with some of her most favorite people in the world, and she was not going to let Mac ruin that for her. "So Hayes," she said, turning to her friend beside her, "do you regret skipping all of this before your big day?" Hazel smiled, taking another sip of champagne. "I'm having a great time," she said. "But my wedding was exactly what I wanted." "Well, in that case I guess I forgive you for ditching us." "I didn't ditch you. We were being spontaneous, and that was honestly why Annie hadn't been more upset about missing her friend's wedding. Hazel being happy and spontaneous was worth it." "Tell us about it," Kira piped up from where she was having her fingernails painted. Next to her was Jeannie, who looked much more relaxed than she'd sounded when Annie had been hiding in the closet. But Annie wasn't thinking about the closet incident either, and she was certainly not thinking about how it had felt to rest her cheek over Mac's rapidly beating heart. Nope. She was focused on the lovely bride, decked out in her white pre-wedding sweatsuit. A gift from the book club, it had bride bedazzled across the back of it. "It was really romantic," Hazel said, getting all dreamy-eyed like she always did when she talked about her wedding day. "We were on vacation in Aruba, and Noah had just asked me to marry him the day before. He had it all planned out, with an officiant and everything. We went into town, and I picked out a white sundress that we found at one of the little shops. The front desk arranged for flowers to wear in my hair, and Noah looked so gorgeous in his linen, buttoned down with his hair all windswept and his cheeks freckled and sunburnt. Then it was just us on the beach at sunset telling each other how much we loved each other." Every woman in the room, including the nail technicians, sighed at Hazel's story. Annie had heard it before, but she had to admit it got her every time. "That sounds perfect," Kira said. And then they spent the rest of the week holed up in their hotel room sealing the deal. Annie chimed in, and Hazel's cheeks flushed pink. "And that was perfect too," she said. "Yeah, I bet it was," Kira said, and all the ladies laughed. "And what about you? When do you plan to make an honest man out of my brother?" Jeannie asked, turning with a raised eyebrow to Kira. "Wouldn't he have to ask her first?" Iris asked from the seat beside Annie. Jeannie had insisted that Iris came, even though she wasn't in the wedding party. She'd also invited her mother, several cousins, her employee, Crystal, and Lindsay and Alex from the bookstore. They'd taken over the entire spa for the afternoon. Maybe Dot and Estelle were off in a sauna or massage room somewhere? Annie should probably check on that before she left. "Well, technically," Kira started before Jeannie chimed in. "He's asked her multiple times," she said. "He has." Annie nearly jumped up out of her seat. "How? Did she not know this?" Kira shrugged. "Yes, technically he has asked. Weird habit of saying, 'Marry me, Peaches,' whenever Wit just having a really great day or something." Giggling again. Kira's impression of Bennett's deep voice had everyone. "But I don't think he means it." "He means it," Jeannie was adamant. "Team not even sure I want to get married," Kira insisted. Iris ran a hand over her belly. "I don't think it's necessary. If you two are happy together, that's all that matters." "Right," Kira said with a nod, and then she gave a little shrug. "Maybe one day I'll say yes and see what he does then." Annie shook her head with a laugh. "Poor Bennett." Kira waved a hand, careful not to mess up her nails. "Oh please, that man is fine. Well, married or not, he'd go to the ends of the earth for you," Jeannie said. Kira smiled. "Yeah, I know, he's a keeper." "Okay, I want to hear more about this wedding," Iris said. "Obviously I know all about the food. Archer's been talking about it for months. But what else have you guys planned?" "Everyone's dying to see the barn all done up, Kira. It already looked amazing at the rehearsal dinner." "I know. I can't wait to see it tomorrow," Jeannie jumped in. Kira smiled, but Annie could see the nerves on her face. She knew how hard her friend had worked over the past 6 months to get this plan up and running. Ever since she and Bennett had found a stash of secret treasure on the farm, They'd put all their effort into transforming the barn into an event space. And now the wedding of the season was her first real event. Annie knew how important it was to her to pull it off. But she would. Annie didn't doubt it. "Tea's going to look gorgeous," she said. "The barn is so much bigger than I originally thought, and Kira did an amazing job overseeing the remodel. We have all white linens, white candles, white lights. It's a winter wonderland with pops of red flowers. What were those flowers you picked, Jeannie?" "White anemones and red peonies. And then Daisy is going to add pine boughs to the tables as well." "Right," Annie said. "The vision is completely on point." Kira smiled at her in thanks. "Yeah, it's going to be perfect." Iris leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. "That sounds beautiful." "And the dress," Hazel added. "How did the last fitting go?" "It went really well. My mom was able to come, and we only cried a little." "You sure about that?" "Okay, we cried a lot, but it was everything I dreamed of." Jeannie handed her phone to Iris so she could see pictures of the dress. Annie had been with her when she found it. A gorgeous frothy confection that made her look like a winter princess with a fitted top and a deep V in the front. Laced vines and flowers ran down the bodice and onto the skirt, as well as down the long sleeves. Logan was going to absolutely lose his mind. "Damn, Jeannie, you're going to look amazing in this," Iris said, and Annie agreed. "She does." Annie could already feel herself getting choked up. Hazel reached over and gave her hand a squeeze. "You can't start crying yet." Annie shook her head. "T've been crying for weeks. Are you bringing a date?" Francine, the woman currently working on her toes, asked, bringing everyone's attention back to Annie. "Because my nephew." "Team going to stop you right there, Fran. I'm not looking for a date." For heads turned to stare at Annie as Jeannie, Hazel, Kira and Iris looked at her in disbelief. "What? You're going to show up to an event without a date, and Mac will also be without a date," Jeannie pointed out. "I don't see why that's relevant." Annie refused to engage in this line of questioning or to think about Mac charging across the parking lot to get to her. Or how it would feel to see him in the sexy suit she was sure he'd be wearing. Jeannie gave a little shrug like she wasn't going to push the matter, but then she went ahead and pushed it. "I'm just saying it's rare that you're both unattached at these things. Seems like it might be a good opportunity. Single quotes. A good opportunity for what, Jean-Marie?" Jeannie wrinkled her nose at the use of her full name. "I don't know. A good opportunity to bury the hatchet." "There is no hatchet. We don't need to bury anything, and we certainly don't need to be near each other anymore." "Then is Tracy necessary, like I promised you?" "I've been on my best behavior, but that's all I can promise." Okay. Jeannie put up her hands with her newly painted nails in surrender. "I appreciate it." Jeannie let it drop and the girls turned their attention back to more pressing matters. Like, was it really bad luck to see the bride before the wedding? Because Jeannie had no intention of sleeping away from her groom tonight. "I don't think it matters." Iris weighed in, and Kira agreed. "As long as he doesn't see you in your dress," Hazel added. "Says the woman who shopped for her dress with her groom," Jeannie said with a laugh. Hazel shrugged. "He helped pick it out, but he didn't see me in it until we were on the beach together. It's nice to have it be a surprise, don't you think?" "I do think that's romantic." "To have his first look of you in the dress as you walk down the aisle," Kira said, blowing on her fingernails. "Logan is going to cry so much," Annie said. Iris looked at her in surprise. "You think so?" "That guy is all gooey inside. He's for sure going to cry." "Did Noah cry?" Iris turned back to Hazel. "There were tears," she confirmed, and everyone sighed again. What was it about making grown men cry that was so damn satisfying? "Okay, so we're all agreed. I can sleep with Logan tonight, but he can't see me in the dress." "That's right," Kira said. "That feels like a good compromise." "We clearly don't believe in following tradition anyway," Iris said, gesturing to her belly and smiling at Hazel and Kira. Hazel laughed, raising her glass of champagne in cheers, but Annie knocked on the wood table beside her. She didn't need anyone jinxing the wedding or anything else for that matter, babies and relationships included. She still hadn't found Estelle or finished the secret wedding dessert. She didn't have time for any more bad luck. As soon as her nails were dry, she was going back out there, this time by herself. She didn't need a certain someone distracting her from more important things, like her friend's happiness. "Aren't you not supposed to see the bride the night before the wedding?" Bennett asked, stepping up to take his turn at the dartboard. They were at the pub doing what the groom had requested for his last night of bachelorhood, eating burgers, drinking beer and playing darts. Logan scoffed. "'Till be damned if I'm not going to sleep with my tonight." Noah patted him on the back. "That's right. Who needs those old traditions anyway? You two have been shacking up together for a year, so that ship has basically sailed," says the man who barely left his hotel room long enough to get married before hauling Hazel back to it. "Hey, there was no hauling. She came willingly," he said, with a smirk. Mac laughed, taking another pull from his beer. He was glad he'd come out. He needed a distraction. Annie's words had been tormenting him all day. "I faked a lot of things. And then she'd gone off to get her nails done. Like it was nothing, not to mention he'd failed to find Estelle, and he didn't really know what they were going to do about it. A little detail he had no intention of telling the groom. Despite all that, he was happy to be out with the boys. He'd lost touch with most of his friends from high school, and much to his surprise, it had been Logan who reached out first when he'd moved back. It was nice to have solid friends again now that he was settled in one place, even though he knew it pissed Annie off having to see him all the time, or maybe especially because it pissed Annie off. For a while he deluded himself into thinking that simply being around her would be enough to soften her feelings toward him, get her to see that he was different than the boy who had left her, but Annie was stubborn as hell. Could he have pushed the matter? Probably. Over the years there were plenty of times he could have forced the issue and demanded that they get all their bullshit out in the open, but then he would have had to face the fact that she really did hate him, and that she would never forgive him. So he hadn't pushed it, at least not until today. She'd made it so that they couldn't ignore their history anymore, because she'd altered it. "I faked a lot of things." "Mac, what?" He shook his head, trying to rid himself of thoughts of Annie and her soft hand on his mouth in that dark closet, and everything she'd said afterward. "You're up," Bennett told him. "Right." Mac got out of the booth and took the darts. From Noah. They were in the back corner of the pub, away from the crowded main dining room where a group of teachers were having their end-of-year party and were engaged in a rather contentious round of Secret Santa, along with the volunteer fire department's annual celebration and award ceremony. It was nuts in here. He made a mental note to give Amber a raise in the new year. He tossed his first dart and missed the board completely. Noah and Logan both turned to stare at him. "Dude, what was that? Horror act?" Mac shook his head. "A shit throw." He tossed the next dart, which barely made it onto the board, hitting the outer ring. "Everything okay?" Logan asked, a look of actual concern drawing his dark brows together. "Everything's fine." Mac chucked the last dart, and it bounced off the wall. "Holy shit," Noah breathed. "I've never seen you play this bad before." Mac tried to shrug it off. "It happens." "Not to you," Noah insisted, and unfortunately he was right. If there was one thing Mac had gotten good at while spending years of his life in his father's pub and so many others, it was darts. And he'd spent far too many nights kicking Noah's ass at the game to try to claim that he wasn't any good. "Forget it," Mac said, heading back to the table. Bennett had just returned with another round of beers and Archer had joined them. "Hey, what did I miss?" "I had to wait for the babysitter. Logan's going to sleep with Jeannie the night before and something's very wrong with Mac." "Noah," Wedding reported. Archer raised an eyebrow. "Wow. Nothing's wrong with me," Mac insisted, except he felt like everything was wrong with him at the moment. Lived so many years convincing himself that there was nothing between him and Annie, that it had all been some teenage fantasy, blown way out of proportion. And then he'd moved back here and he was screwed, because Annie was exactly as perfect as he'd remembered. But she didn't want him, and he'd done his best to move on. He'd set up a life here. He'd dated other women, grown his business. He'd made fucking friends. And then he'd spent one morning with her, and she'd destroyed his resolve to stay away. He couldn't think straight, and he certainly couldn't play darts. He spent the morning with Annie, Archer reported, and if he didn't have a baby on the way, Mac might have punched him in the face. "Really?" Noah said, interesting ... single quotes. "Who told you that?" "Iris. She said you and Annie stormed the Y this morning. You were also spotted together at the cafe," Ben added, taking a slug of his beer. These grown men, his alleged friends, were worse than the book club with their gossip. "Jesus. You can't do anything in this town without everyone knowing about it." Archer chuckled. "It's the truth. But what were you guys doing together? I thought she didn't let you near her." Mac shook his head, downing more of his beer. That was more true than he wanted to admit. I was at her apartment this morning. He glared at Noah before the man could jump in with questions about things that definitely didn't happen, fetching Logan's cufflinks. And her car was out of gas. I helped her run a couple of errands. That's it? That's it? Bennett asked skeptically. Yeah, that's it. Errands. Nobody looked like they were buying it, but Mac must have had a threatening enough look on his face that they let it go. Okay, man, whatever you say. We're not here to talk about me anyway, Mac said, gesturing to Logan with his bottle of beer. We're here for our friend on his last night of freedom. Logan rolled his eyes. Last night of freedom is a bullshit thing to say, he said. We're here because I wanted a pub burger and a beer, and you're just lucky I let you tag along. Mac shook his head with a smile. There was the grumpy bastard they all knew and loved. Asterisk to Logan and Jeannie, Archer said, raising his bottle, and the others followed suit. To Logan and Jeannie they all said, Congratulations, man. Mac clapped his friend on the back. He poor. Thanks, Logan said. I am glad you guys are here. Noah pretended to wipe his eyes. Don't get all sappy on us now, you're going to make me cry. Bennett laughed and Mac got up to grab some more food for the table. By the time he got back, Iris was perched on Archer's lap. His heart rate picked up speed. Were all the girls here? Hey Iris, what are you doing here? He asked, sliding a plate of fries in front of her. Perfect, she said with a little sigh. I was having a craving. I can make you fries, Archer grumbled. Iris pressed a kiss against his temple. I love you and I love your cooking, but you can't deep fry me fries at home, and this is exactly what I wanted, she said, popping one of the crispy fries into her mouth. Archer kissed her shoulder. Okay, sweetheart. Jeannie wanted me to tell you she'd meet you at home, Iris said, turning to Logan. She was grabbing dinner with her parents first. Logan nodded. So, I guess you don't think it's bad luck either, Iris said, sleeping together the night before the wedding. Logan shook his head. Of course I don't think it's bad luck. Jeannie is it for me, and I'm not going to spend the night away from her because of some ridiculous superstition. Iris smiled. She feels the same way. Logan dipped his head in acknowledgement, a happy smile tugging at his lips. And for a minute Mac couldn't identify the sensation in his gut, until he realized it was jealousy. He was jealous of his friends. Jealous of Logan for being so sure about Jeannie. Jealous of Archer for having his beautiful and pregnant girlfriend in his lap. And of Noah, who'd already married the girl of his dreams. And then there was Bennett, who spent his